Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt once again from Divination Counseling Service, here to present to you the Mars Ingress into Pisces chart. So we're looking at the chart, and I do want to apologize. I do work with a lot of different things, and I toyed with the idea of not including particularly my outer circle, but I decided that because I am an asteroid astrologer that I should probably present the material right up front with everything that I do. So I apologize to anybody that this might be confusing for. But for those of you who are really interested in figuring out how these little rocks and the trans-Neptunians work, as I work with this, I'm going to try to integrate more of them into the work. Today, I don't want to get into them too much because I want to keep it because we're both getting used to, you and I are getting used to working with this kind of software. So today, I'm presenting to you a chart from May 13th, 2020. This chart takes place at 30 minutes in the morning, so 0:30 Eastern Daylight Time. So the very beginning of the day. It's very interesting. It actually begins on the beginning of a day. But in any event, let's look at this chart. Okay, so it has a Saturn ruler. Okay, and Saturn is in the first, conjuncting the moon. Okay, we're going to definitely be talking about that because Saturn to the moon is almost like you can't express yourself, or it's a restricted, particularly when it comes to emotionally. Like we can't overextend ourselves too much emotionally. And yet, when the moon is in the first house, that's exactly what people are doing. They're being right out there. So, two things cross my mind. We are in a quarantine, and it could be some of the emotional outburst, if you will. I call it it's anger that's misdirected. So we have this misdirected anger everywhere. And you notice how here too Mars still falls into the first house. It's not, at least not from appearances, it does not appear that there's any real aspects here between Mars and Saturn. But actually there is. Okay. So here we have Saturn at 1 degree 57 retrograde and Mars at 0 degrees. Okay, now one is in Aquarius and one is in Pisces, but there's still an aspect there because they're within a degree of each other. And we're talking about something that's going to take place over several months. So I'm going to say, I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that this could also be restrictive actions. And first of all, I do think that for people to heal and to be sensible, we have to restrict our actions. Restriction of actions. So here we have Saturn and the moon. And one of the things I want to point out here is they're in the first house. Okay, Mars is in the first house. It's got like 4.5 degrees to get to the second house. So the first thing people would think about is the anger could be over money, and that's possible because what rules Mars here in Pisces is Neptune, and Neptune is uncertainty, and there it falls right into the second house. So there we are, very, very uncertain, causing a little bit of angst and fear. We're restrictive, but here's the clincher. Pluto, Jupiter, Sun, Uranus. And I'm just going to pick up these two because they're all the closer ones. This Poseidon to the midheaven. Okay. That's 3 angles. And there's 3 major events going on in 3 major angles, which means that that Poseidon is also aspecting that Pluto. That Pluto is also aspecting that Uranus. So even though Uranus and Pluto don't really aspect because they are on angles, they will. Okay, so in this case, the sun, however, is enshrined, so to Pluto and to the ascendant. I do want to point that out because it's a close trine to the ascendant. These are personal changes that we're making to help our own personal transformation so that we can expand. Now, it also is talking about the fact that what's going on, the manipulations, the people, this anger. Okay, so this is going to be going on for a couple of months because Mars will also retrograde at the end of Pisces and come back. So we're really getting a lesson here, if you will, a double whammy on what's going on here with Neptune. And I just want to point this out. It's in square to the Vesta Hygeia. Okay, so we are, and I told you I'd get into the little rocks a little bit here. Vesta and Hygeia are talking about our health and distancing, and how distancing is probably applicable to our health. It's also, Venus is right here. This is the healing, okay? Jupiter is also healing, as it is in the first house, but Jupiter, since it's in with Pluto, is kind of maybe a healing that we're not aware of, because there's that transformational concept that's involved in all things Pluto, and it kind of tends to rip everything up and all of that. So it's really hard sometimes for us to realize that this is really healing us, that we are healing, and that the changes that are being made in our personal lives because of what we're learning, Poseidon, is very helpful. And here's our fifth house where Venus is, and the conjunction of both Vesta and Hygeia tells us that also, that we are, this distancing is actually doing a good job. So I'm going to have to go contrary to what I know everybody's hearing politically. And I know that, excuse me, that would be the reason for the anger. Excuse me. Mine is not a COVID. Mine is an allergy with an open window. One of the things here I do want to point out here, this Ophelia and the boundaries. You know, people are overreactive because they think that others may have overstepped their boundaries. In this case, we could be talking Kronos, the authorities. But I don't think that's really what it is, because again, Kronos is about 10 degrees away, and yes, we're going to point fingers at the authorities, but let's go back to Saturn Moon. That's a lot of displaced anger. That's anger that's not directed at the sources that it should be. And in this case, it would be the disease that's keeping us distant. It's a health factor, not so much Kronos, okay? We do feel this urge to be productive. I think you can be productive in your own home, but people need to be productive. And it's with Volcanus, there's a have to on it, and that's the descendant. So, you know, I am not a proponent of going back to work. I think that if you can do it safely, sure. But I also think that people don't, because of their anger, they're not thinking rationally. They're thinking with Ophelia, you know, they're whacked out a little bit. So there's a lot of overreaction going on. Please be aware of that, and take care of yourself, okay? But we are healing, and we are headed in a better direction, and the changes that we're making are really good. And we're finding that out, even if it's in small increments. So if your Mars in Pisces wants to drink and do alcohol, because that's another factor of that Mars, you know, remember that it's going to affect you, the environment, you, okay? And you want to be aware of that. The other thing is that if you're feeling so low, some of the things that you can do is go help other people. I cannot stress that enough. Compassion and empathy are highlighted in Pisces, and we're going to be here a while, people. And this chart is going to have an effect on your life for several months to come, at least 2 to 3. So with that said, if you have any questions or you need any work done, please contact me through divinationcounselingservice.org. I will get back to you right away. Also, like, share. I'm really into sharing and liking only from the perspective of the divine feminine. And if you're watching this, you know what I'm talking about. We're embarking on the Aquarian age here. And as a matter of fact, I think the charts are showing that that's part of our transformation, is as we head into the Aquarian age, that Uranus squaring, that Saturn in Aquarius, I think that it means that we have to change some things about us, our society, our economy, if you will. And it's going to require a lot of knowledge. It's going to require change, innovation. There's our Uranus. And it's all going to lead to transformation, okay? It's all good stuff. So once again, contact me if you will, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Until we meet again, happy readings.